Right. I was talking about an example. Just imagine you wanted to buy a pair of shoe. You search one pair from a shop. It is really good. You have a desire to buy. As a rational consumer, you may search the price of the good. The price actually 3,750. As a rational buyer, you do not immediately pay. You will negotiate. You want to negotiate with the seller. Then you may ask last price. The shopkeeper might say 2,005, say 3,500. But you may also introduce another value. You will also suggest, because you might tell, no, it is too much. I will give you 2,750. But shopkeeper is not happy. Then he said once again, the price is 2,300, say 3,300. That is the price that the shopkeeper said. So you have to, then you also decided, yes, if you do not bargain, you had to pay 2,700, 3,750. Right now, you was able to reduce the price, then you may buy such a pair. So at 3,300. So there is a sort of a situation of a market equilibrium. Right now, we look at one product, number of different prices, and quantities are given. So quantity demand, quantity supply. Whenever demand and supply equal, we can realize equilibrium price. It says here, according to the schedule, quantity demanded at 3 rupees is 6 unit, quantity supply same price 6, at any price quantity demand not equal quantity supply. At prices above equilibrium price 3 rupee, there exists an excess supply uh, at a price lower than the equilibrium price. There's excess demand, shortage in the market too. I mean, we will look at what is excess demand, excess supply before or later after this. Anyways, this is the equilibrium quantity. This is the equilibrium price. Right. Then what does excess demand, excess supply? Excess demand means demand is greater than the supply. Excess supply means supply is greater than the demand. So excess demand occur any price below the equilibrium. When we look at 0, 1, 2, here we can see excess demand. So excess demand in the first case only 12 is uh, demanded, but no supply. That means only 12. In the second one, 10 demanded, but 2 only supplied. That means 8 is excess. Then 8 demanded, but 4 only supplied. That means 4 is the excess demand. When you look at excess supply, uh, it happens. It happens after the equilibrium. Then we come to prices. When the price is 4, supply is 8, but 4 only demanded, 4 is remaining. Then 10 supplied, but 2 only demanded, 8 is remaining. Finally, 12 is remaining. So excess supply in such a way. So at the equilibrium, there is no excess demand or excess supply. It is also a special situation. In these two, excess demand is zero, excess supply is also zero. Right. After that, we look at the equilibrium by using demand and supply curves or diagrams. In the next one, demand and supply diagram, yes, graph is given here. When we draw up both demand and supply curves on one diagram, there is an equilibrium. Only one equilibrium. Why? These two curves can intersect only at a specific place. This is called equilibrium. Then the equilibrium price over here, equilibrium quantity, this much. This is how we realize equilibrium price and quantity when we draw up a demand and supply diagrams. So it says the price at which quantity demand is equal to quantity supplied is 3 rupee and quantity is 6 units. As there is no excess demand or no excess supply, attain the equilibrium point. Equilibrium point when there is a disequilibrium exists in the market, the price mechanism shift the market towards the equilibrium point. I will draw up excess demand as well. Just imagine price somewhere 5. If the price is 5, uh, if the price is 5, two is demanded, 10 is supplied. 2 is demanded, 10 is supplied. So then the gap between these two illustrate excess supply. As well as any price below the equilibrium, somewhere here too. When the price is 2, 8 demanded, but only 4 supplied, there is an excess demand. Excess demand. Excess supply, excess demand. Right. Next. Demand and supply equations. So the equilibrium can be illustrated through a demand and supply equation. So here what do? We just construct a demand and supply equation, and we can find out equilibrium by using when we simplify these equations. So then I'll show you, it is in the next one. Right. Next one says demand equation, supply equation. Two equations are given. In the demand and supply equation, you can see the demand equation is 12 minus 2p. Supply equation is just 2p. Right now, we just calculate demand, what you call equilibrium, by using so at the equilibrium we know that QD, quantity demand, should equal to quantity supply. That is the theory. So you are given demand equation like 12 minus 2p. So the supply equation is 2p, right? Then what do we do? 12 only that side, 2p plus 2p. Then 12 other side 4p. So the p equal 12 divided by 4 equal. So the equilibrium price three. After this, we should calculate the equilibrium quantity as well. Equilibrium quantity means a particular units that that both buyers and sellers exchange. You see, at the equilibrium, both demand and supply, the quantity is same. Therefore, you can use either equation uh, to calculate equilibrium quantity. Right now, I'll use demand equation minus 2 into 3. So the QD equal 12 minus 6. QD equal 6. Right. Therefore, your answer equilibrium quantity is 6 units. Equilibrium quantity is 6 units. This is how we look at equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity by using demand and supply equations. So we completed demand, supply. Right now we completed equilibrium as well. So the equilibrium means the way of determining price of a good when quantity demand is equal to quantity supply. Then we understood number of approaches. One is demand and supply schedules. Next one, demand and supply uh, graphs. Next one, demand and supply equations. Right. After this one, it says in your next one, it's about change in the market equilibrium. Right now we understood way of determining the equilibrium. Now we look at change in the equilibrium. So in the same page 2.5 it says the equilibrium point that is determined through the interaction of demand and supply forces could change due to changes in market forces. When demand and supply curve shifts, the change market forces can be discussed under 3 categories. So what do we realize here? Change in the market equilibrium. Sometimes equilibrium price will rise. Sometimes equilibrium price will fall. Sometimes quantity will rise. price remains the same. Sometimes quantity will fall, price remains the same. Variety of changes. So all these changes are categorized in here. Change in demand while supply remains the same. If the increase in demand while supply remains the same, then decrease in demand while supply remains the same. It's a one situation. When the demand increases of a good, price of the product can also be increased because producers uh, can increase the price because of the rapid growth in demand. When the demand decreases, producers may intend to reduce the price because of fall in demand. Next one, change in supply while demand remains the same. Even two types, increase in supply while demand remains same, decrease in the supply while demand remains the same. So the increase in supply means as a supply increases, more goods in the market, then the price may go down. When the supply decreases, lack of goods in the market, then the price might rise. Next one, change in both demand and supply. Right now, earlier we understood another factor was remain the same. Right now, both both factors were changed, or both demand and supply change at the same time. One is increasing both demand and supply. If the if that condition, we will realize the impact on the equilibrium price and the quantity. Decrease in both demand and supply, increase in demand while supply declines, increase in supply while demand decreases. Variety of situations. It is described in the other page. When we come to increase in demand, so when the demand increases, you can observe the demand curve has shifted right side. Then the price increased from P1 to P2. Quantity also increased. When the demand decreases, the demand curve only shifted to left. Then the price decreased, quantity even decreased. That's how changes in demand. Next one, changes in supply. So then increase in supply, decrease in supply. When the supply increases, curve shift to the right. When the supply decreases, curve shift to the left. That's how we realize rightward shift and the leftward shift of supply. Right. Uh, note down a question. Note down a question in your books. Explain the effect on the equilibrium price and the quantity of a fish market by using demand and supply diagrams for each given below. First one, increasing the price chicken. Doctors advised consume, advises to consume more fish to prevent COVID-19. Next one, government introduced a subsidy farm fishing. Next one, decreasing number of fishing boats. When you look at the first one, it says increase in price of chicken. So the price of chicken is a substitute for fish. If the price of chicken rises, people may demand more fish. As a result, demand for fish will rise. then the demand curve can shift from D1 to D2. Meanwhile, equilibrium prices will rise from P1 to P2, then the quantity increases from Q1 to Q2. This is the first diagram and the explanation like that. You have to say in the next case, doctors advise doctors advise to consume more fish to consume more fish uh, to prevent COVID-19. Then once again the same diagram. Demand increases, demand curve shift to the right. Same thing, but you have to explain. Higher demand, then the increase in demand means demand curve shift to the right. Next one, government introduces a subsidy. If the government introduces a subsidy, the supply curve can shift to the right. Subsidy is a government support. Then the supply increases, curves can shift to the right. As a result, price falls, quantity decreases, say increases. Here the price P1, P2, Q1, Q2. S, S1, price. So here you have to say government subsidy means producers are encouraged, then the supply increases, supply curve shift to the right, then equilibrium price decreases from P1 to P2, while equilibrium quantity rises from Q1 to Q2. Decrease in number of fishing boats, completely opposite. Uh, that means supply curve can shift to the left. So S1, S2, demand, price, quantity, same rule. Right, here you have to say as the supply decreases due to less fishing boats, supply curve shift to the left, S1 to S2, then the equilibrium price rises, equilibrium quantity falls. Right. Then the next one, we have to consider the elasticity of demand. Uh, Simply, it it is in the same page. At last, elasticity of demand. Elasticity means such a relationship. We understood number of factors influencing demand of a good. As the price of a good changes, quantity demand can also be changed. Income, once again the same. As the income increases or decreases, demand of the good can be changed. Even price of related goods like substitutes and complements, if so, demand of a good can also be changed. Likewise, so then when there are changes in any other factor, demand of the product can also be changed. So then we look at elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand sense responsiveness of percentage change in demand to a factor uh, affecting demand for the good. So then there are different, which is three types of elasticities in demand. First of all, we have learned all the four types. One is price elasticity, cross elasticity, income elasticity, as well as price elasticity of supply. So then we have to start with the price elasticity of demand first of all. In the price elasticity of demand, at the price elasticity of demand, we concentrate the relationship between the demand and the price influencing demand. Let's say when the price of a good changes, quantity demand can also be changed while other factors are held constant. Right now we look at such a percentage change. For example, price, quantity demand. Price of the good is 2, quantity demand is 100. Price is 4, quantity demand is 80. This is a table. We understood such a relationship. Later on, we have to calculate the price elasticity of demand as well. Then we have to look at the percentage change in quantity demand and the percentage change in price. How do we calculate? Take the difference. Difference is 80 divided by original value. It is 100. So all these should be multiplied by 100. So then the answer is 20%. This is how percentage is calculated when there are changes in the price of the good. And the next one, price. Price of the good change by 2. Original value was at 2 multiplied by 100. Then the answer is 100%. Then the answer is 100%. So what we understand, percentage change in price and the percentage change in quantity demand. Then the price changes by 100, quantity demand changed by 20. So when the price changes by 1%, quantity demand changed by 0.2%. So this is the relationship. We look at always 1% change, percentage change, and the percentage change in quantity. So such a response. So here, price elasticity of demand, the abbreviation is PED, 0.2. just 0.2 without percentage sign, but everyone knows this is 0.2% in quantity demand due to the 1% change in price. Meanwhile, we put a minus sign as well. Right, this is how we consider price elasticity of demand. Look at the definition. The sensitive that exists between the price of a good and the quantity demand, or in other words, the value that shows the percentage change in quantity demand of a good resulting from 1% change price in other of that good is referred to as price elasticity of demand. So it says clearly. Thereafter, price elasticity of demand methods through price elasticity of demand can be measured like this. You are given such a percentage sign, percentage. Actually, how do we calculate this method? By using such a percentage value. So the TDD equal percentage change quantity demand due to percentage change in price. Right. This is how we look at price elasticity of demand. Simply 20 divided by 100. That is the answer. Right. But after this, you don't need to join. We will end up the class with this session. Anyways, we have a few minutes. Right. So this is the way of calculating price elasticity of demand. You are given the same thing in the book what I gave you. Then the point elasticity, it says about something like the word point elasticity. I will brief you in the next time what is the difference between point elasticity and arc elasticity. Right now, we considered price elasticity. This is actually point elasticity of demand. This is the way of considering or we're calculating point elasticity. There's another one can be illustrated like this. P equal, then the change in delta Q over delta P into P over Q. Delta Q, delta P into P over Q. Right. This is the way of recognizing point elasticity. Right now, you have two formulas and another formula I just write. We discuss this in the next week. D multiplied by P over Q. Right. So then these three formulas are said to be arc elasticity, in other words, the way of measuring price elasticity of demand. All the formulas